Good morning, Mr. Stowell. Thank you for joining me. I love you, man. Austin Stowell. Everybody, thank you.
Uh, Mr. Schmidt, right back at you. First and foremost, I want to say thank you for this. There is not enough of this in the world right now. I was thinking about this morning. People in our position, any kind of public figure, so I call it, and I'm so uncomfortable saying that word. Right, you are. Tend to hide and tend to put forth whatever the best image of themselves that they can create, that their team creates, and I think that's unfair. I think it's an injustice to the general population to not say, "Hey, I'm just a human being, and I'm going
Right.
through a ton of stuff just like you are."
It's
Thank you very
easy.
much for your time and energy doing all this. I really, I think of you as a brother already. We've spent the past now 5 months together, almost every day, and it's just I'm very proud of you for this.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. And I feel the same way. We luckily, as individuals, I think have done a lot of work and are able to speak candidly with one another and share our feelings. And I think I know I value that very, very much in our relationship. I appreciate being able to turn to you and say I'm having a hard day or I'm tired. I appreciate hearing you say that you're proud of me because I respect you and I admire the human being that you are. I wish there were more human beings like you. And I think that's part of the reason we're having this conversation is because, um, I know you've done work. You can't be the person you are without doing work. And, going back to what you were saying, which I think was a really good point, we're talking about like identity and being a public figure. And, we're actors. A lot of the times who we are is surmised by our resumes. It's easy to go, Austin Stoll from, Catch 22 and 12 Strong. And I mean, the list goes on. You've got a phenomenal resume. But I've had the pleasure of meeting you as a person. And I can tell you that you are not the summation of your resume. You are the summation of the experiences that you've had in life and how you have chosen to handle and make decisions based on your integrity and your moral compass. And for that, I salute you because you are one of the few very, very, I mean, not few. There's some good people out there, but in my life, you are one of the few truly genuinely good people. I know, and thank you for that.
Hmm. I thank you.
I know isn't it hard taking compliments
No, no,
sometimes?
no. It's no, but it touches me. It's hard to say thank you sometimes, and I just because that means you're accepting the words that somebody has said about you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I suck at that.
I look at myself in the mirror a lot and say, and I can just pick myself apart about um, all of the inefficiencies, the did nots, the what ifs, and so that's something I'm still getting better at. But I think you. I mean, you're one of the people out there who know better than I. that all I do is walk into rooms over and over again, saying, "Hey, here is my take on this character."
Mhm.
Um, and I've gotten, I don't know whether to call it lucky. Um, I'm a big believer that you can increase your chances of good luck. I worked at a grocery store in my teenage years, and there was a guy that I worked with, and he said, "Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance."
Oh, I like that. What's
Yeah,
that? Isn't that
it's great.
alliteration? That's alliteration, right?
I mean, this is a guy in the produce department
Pup, pup, pup,
at
pup, pup.
Nazo's grocery store in Kensington, Connecticut, and his
Yeah.
words have stuck with me forever.
What
Uh,
is that again?
Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance.
That's a mouthful. I love
Yeah.
that.
Uh,
Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance.
there it is. And this
So
was
so
the
work
produce
like
department. We were talking about vegetables and stacking, stacking up bananas, uh,
sure.
and all you had to do was do the steps beforehand to lead up to the final result. And uh, and that's just always stuck with me. I never wanted to leave anything on the field. I wanted to, I wanted to walk away if I didn't get it. It's like, okay, I give it my best shot. The most the moment that was probably the biggest 1 yard line of my life was I went to go test for Star Wars. And
Wow.
I was in Star Wars for 1 day. And when I say 1 day, that means I got to live it for 1 day. I was in hair and makeup.
No way.
I was in the costume. I don't even know if I can talk about this. I'm sure it's fine at this point. But
Yeah.
uh, and the guy who got the role is an incredible actor, and he did an amazing job. He always does. It's Daisy Ridley. I was testing for her part. No, but I flew to London, tested, flew back the next day, that kind of thing. Got off the plane. 20 minutes later, my agent says, "You didn't get it."
Yeah.
Just letting you know.
Hard news to take.
Hard, not at all.
No, you don't find it hard?
I say, sure. I mean, is it easy? No. Is it
Mhm.
hard? No.
Did you know who had got the role when you got the no?
No.
Because
No,
for
no
me, a
clue.
lot of the time,
I've never wanted to know details.
no.
I'm going to find out eventually. I just don't care. Um, I say the same thing over and over and over again. And I just say one word, onward. I go, okay, onward.
Sure. I mean, that's a really good way to look at it. It's maybe perhaps a healthier way to look at than the years. It took me years to figure out how to go. All right, moving on.
Hmm.
Now I was always able to move on, but there was always that question of like, why? Like, what could have happened? Like, I have a very analytical brain. So
Hmm.
then and I don't do this anymore. And I think that's partly because I'm older. I've gone through stages of my life where I have been able to redefine my own version of my identity. And I think
Hmm.
COVID helped for that. The strike, like COVID, and then the strike was just like 3.5 years of nothing. You
Huge.
know, no
Huge.
work.
Yeah.
So if you're not a working actor, if you're not an actor, if you're not able to do what, and I love it. Like I truly love what I do for a living. So when I didn't get to do what I loved, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing, and I'd met my wife, and I was trying to figure out how to prove to somebody that I loved that I had value.
Hmm.
And I didn't know how to do it because, you know, a lot of the time, well, to me, a lot of my value came from, you know, working hard and doing, I guess being successful to some extent in an industry that is very difficult to be
Hmm.
in.
Hmm.
And then while I met my wife, around the same time I met my wife, I had started a furniture company. And I really enjoyed building these tables that I was building,
Hmm.
to the point that like I'd go, was it short, I think it was just before COVID hit, like just before. And so like I would go out to a dinner party and they'd be like, the very LA question was like, what do you do for a living? And I'd be like, I build furniture. And
Uh,
it was like, for me, it was kind of like saying fuck you as an answer. Like,
hmm.
I don't know you. I'm not gonna give you my identity, so, summed up in like, oh, what do you do for a living? You
Hmm.
know what? You don't know me. I build tables. You want
Hmm.
to get to know me?
Now, so that's a funny thing because I hear you on that. And what is it about being an actor that you don't want to tell people? Because there is this odd thing, and when you're not an actor,
Mm-hmm.
you're telling people you are an actor. When I was I bartended when I first got here, and there was I made an adamant choice that I was always going to say the same answer. I was going to say I'm bartending, but I'm trying to be an actor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there have been times, there have been um, I don't know. There, I mean, whether you're in an airport, in an Uber ride, in a where somebody asks you what you do,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll admit I've said something else.
Yeah. Why? I wonder what it is.
I'm in the entertainment industry.
Right. Right. Do you think it's
Why
because
don't you just say you're an actor? There's some well because uh, I think you're afraid of the stigma that will um, create about you because immediately it's what have you been in now if you're in
yeah,
finance, if you're in insurance, if you're I don't know if you're a
an accountant?
contractor,
Yeah.
if you're right, if you're a contractor, there you go. uh you're a contractor, what houses have you built? No
Hmm.
one asked that.
No. No.
You know what the conversation will go to, and I think for me it's that I don't want to make this about me right now.
Sure.
I just want to have a chat.
Also,
And
like,
there are so many times, and now that is a lot of uh that's certainly assuming a lot about this other person.
mhm.
Maybe they don't want to talk about that at all. uh but
I mean, it's
the
inevitable. It
assumption that
always
that
comes up.
conversation will now become about me uh is why I have sometimes lied or
Avoided it.
gated that answer,
Yeah. Okay,
because it's
go.
not, there's so much more to me. If you we're talking about identity here, and I think that's such a wonderful thing to address, where if if you wanted to know who I am, I would say you should ask the guy um, who I've now run into at the gym for the last 5 months. Like
Mhm.
at the gym back home, I live on the East Coast. Like you can go talk to some folks there. The the guy at the coffee shop that I see every morning, and that
Mhm.
I know everything about him because I've invested some time with. Those are the people that I would say they arguably know me a little bit more than say the people uh, and then my identity as an actor.
Mhm.
Because when I go to work, and you know this, I mean, this is odd having this conversation, not odd, but it does change the lens of this conversation a little bit because you're the person that I go to work with.
Sure.
When I go to work, the second that I put my contacts in and stare at myself in the mirror for that 1 second where it's like, all right, stepping in, you know,
Mhm.
time to go to work.
Yep.
And I use that motion because it's an easy point for me to transition. Um, and that's a therapy technique for me, that that there are kind of these doorways in life that you can say, okay, I'm going to leave this behind from this moment, and I'm going to go do this thing now. And that comes from like when I'm training there is something about the end of my training. I was given this advice to leave the training in the same way all the time, so that your body knows, your mind knows that it's like, okay, we're going into a recovery state now. And that has worked for me. There are so many things in my life that I've picked up along the way, little bits of like stoicism, little bits of from some Navy SEALs that I've worked with, little bits from these guys that I've become very, very close with. I'm an honorary part of their special forces unit, and they're all like, we're a brotherhood. Bits from them, bits from freaking Dr. Huberman. This guy that I follow on Instagram.
I love him, man. He's great.
Called Squat University, stuff from him. It's just like I've just kind of
you're picking and choosing your philosophy.
All I'm doing is going through the grocery store and putting things in my basket.
Yeah, things that work for you.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes you go home and cook, and it doesn't taste so good. And I go back to the grocery store,
sure,
and maybe pick some different ingredients next time. But there are some mainstays, and now I've kind of got a diet, so that works pretty well for me in this moment.
Right.
It's always changing, always evolving, because I'm looking for more. But that's a very long answer to say that I am a growing, evolving person who is consciously trying to work on themselves, because I guess I know all too well what could be lying in wait.
The alternative. Now, you were a baseball player, right?
I mean,
you played ball.
I played ball. But you're in no way, shape, or form was I like world's greatest baseball player or like destined to be in the major leagues.
Yeah. No, but you understand pressure.
Sure.
You understand, when I say, focus, a tunnel vision, being able to turn it on and dial it in. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Sure.
So that's an asset. That's a tool that you use, and it's similar to you popping in your contacts and going, "I'm going to work now. I'm in the gym. I'm going to work now. I'm going to focus on something like myself, whether you're in the gym or your job or your health. That's a wonderful tool to have and be able to apply is focus, right? You get to apply it to all different facets of life. Our childhood kind of gives us a definition of who we are. And I'm going to lead us into some generational stuff with that, because I mean, I know you grew up on the East Coast. I grew up in Toronto, not far from you. I grew up in my world was kind of like a blue collar working class world. Winters were crappy. We'd gather up, build a fire, and drink, and that was like a very common thing for like everybody to do in the winters on the East Coast. Would be like, you crack a beer, or you have a hot toddy, or you do, you do that. And so I just want to talk about like geography, where we're from, generational differences. Caleb, obviously, we go to work with Caleb is 10 years younger than you and I. His experience in this was different, and it was cool. It was very interesting to be able to talk to him about his experience, which was very different from mine. And I think this is a great way to kind of lead into the rest of this conversation, because everybody's different. Everybody has had a different upbringing. They have different um, traditions.
Mm,
And so, I grew up in a household where therapy wasn't necessarily shunned, but it also, like, the idea of like there ever being anything wrong was also like was wrong. Like, if we weren't kind of like the idea of this kind of like from an outside perspective, this kind of like perfect family,
mm,
we the what was happening on the inside of the home was falling apart. Like,
mhm,
we needed to keep there was this idea in my house that we needed to keep the facade. We
mm,
needed, from an outside perspective, we needed to keep that facade up so it looked like we were always cheery and great and fucking
yeah,
wonderful when we
sure,
weren't. Like,
yeah,
you know,
right.
like, no, I don't think anybody's family, nobody's family is perfect. It takes work, it takes communication, it takes a lot of things. What was generation, or from like with your family? What was it like? Was mental health, was communicating problems? Was it something? Because you've got three brothers, right?
Two older brothers.
Two older brothers.
Yeah.
What was it like for you in Connecticut?
Um, so I come from a blue collar family. My mom's was a teacher. My dad was an iron worker, and um, I was just very much aware that that we were not the rich people.
Mhm.
Now, I can also remember, I have this very vivid memory of being in church, um, and the priest asked Reverend Humes, who was maybe one of the reasons I became an actor. He was a wonderful storyteller, and I loved listening to his stories. And he said, "Is anybody here rich?" And I was, I don't know, 7, 8 years old, and I raised my hand.
Mhm.
Um, and and there was the chuckle, uh, and he said, "You're rich?" And I said, "Yeah, I have a roof above my head and a family who loves me. And that makes me very rich." And of course, there was this, cacophony of,
Applause. I would
"Oh,
applaud
yeah,
that.
truly." I mean, there was this,
Yes.
"Oh, wow," wow, this, uh,
Incredible.
really, I can remember saying that, and I was very, very young. And it's because, um, I don't know, man, whether I just got it at an early age that I was grateful to have a body that worked, to have a mind that um, seemed to service me well enough, uh, that I had. I grew up in this house that was like surrounded by woods, and um, these kids that I played with in the neighborhood. I mean, it was kind of like when you think of like the Sandlot.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
bit. I mean, it's not quite that, but
Sure.
it's not too far from it. It's
Right.
really not like
Yeah.
these. You call your buddies, be like, meet at the field in half
Yes.
an hour.
That's how I grew up, man. I
Yeah,
mean, that
and
was the 80s. That was the
now
80s. Like,
as I got older, things changed. Um, there were, and I don't know, and it's probably because of money issues, um, but things started to not feel great around the house. Um, and maybe it's because of my mental maturity as I came into my early teenage years, or even before then, really. That um, so my father uh, was a paranoid schizophrenic, um, manic depressive, bipolar 2, undiagnosed until much later into his life. And I know this much is that I was my household felt like it was a giant um, minefield. And I knew the map of the minefield really well. I was programmed essentially to know the minefield and to never, and it's like, what was that game? Minesweeper.
Yes. Yeah.
Bit
Two
like that.
steps to the right.
I
One
knew the
forward.
clues. I knew the clues along the way where it was like, okay, I'm getting close to a mine right now.
Right.
Time to go the other way.
Yeah.
And then over time, that behavior was just programmed into me not to step on the mine because my there were very serious consequences once I stepped on a mine.
Right.
And many times, despite my best efforts to know the rules of the game, I would eventually step on one, not meaning to.
Of course.
And it was just, what did I do? Why?
Yeah.
I'm trying.
You're just a kid.
I don't feel like I did anything wrong. And your it took me a long time to break those habits, and because they eventually become it forms it formed for me, it formed um, a behavioral pattern of, okay, I'm just going to do whatever I can do not to step on the mine, right? And so it eventually just led, it makes you go like this, that there wasn't very much trust in the household, that it became this system of covering up lies, and being okay with lying. That there were very serious issues going on with my father, and it wasn't until within the last 10 years, say, but really, really within the last 5, that I was really clued into what was going on behind the scenes, how much was hidden from me.
Is that because of conversations with your brothers and your mom or doctors perhaps that?
Yeah. So, and I know this is kind of jumping around because really, I mean, to go through all of this, we would need.
Yeah.
You can ask my psychologist. Or a psychiatrist.
We have no map.
What do you call it?
No
Just
rules.
my therapist. I think he is a psychologist, though. I think it's great. And that's something I want to touch on too eventually. Yeah. But when, for lack of a better phrase, when shit really hit the fan, it was when I came back from Italy. I'd been doing Catch 22, and I could just really tell that something was going on with my father. And at this point, we were not communicating very much. We had a big falling out, where I basically told him, I don't know what's going on with you, but it's not an excuse to I called him a not nice word. And I said, it's just not an excuse for that. And we didn't talk for a long time. And then it's there were I wouldn't let too much time go by, only because it's who I am. But it's certainly not like we were talking even every month. It was like on his birthday I would check in, or something like that. Anyway, but I got back from overseas, and I could just really feel something was wrong. And so he was living in Florida at the time, and I went down um, unannounced and opened the door to find him um, not well, really not well. Whatever you're imagining, it's probably worse. And I said, okay, and I just said, okay, we're going to clean this up. And it then became uh, this process of helping him get back on his feet, which included checking him into a psychiatric ward, just because I was so worried about his physical health at that point.
Of course.
To make sure that he was getting 3 meals a day and water, simple things.
Yeah.
And so did that and saw that through. And then
what is the process? What is the process of that? Like, how do you find, you're in Florida? Do you call somebody in Florida? Do you have friends there or somebody you can ask? Like, how do I find a safe place for this person that you love, that you care about? That, like, how did you go about finding, I suppose they call it an institution, right? An institution that they can go and find care.
Yeah. uh, I honestly can't remember how I found that facility, called the Bayside Medical Center in Sarasota, Florida. And it might have been something as easy as a Google search.
Sure.
This was in 2018. So I had, kind of those resources available to me. I do remember talking on the phone with somebody there and trusting them. And I also had the help of my brothers at the time that I could call there. I was basically, filling them in on the situation. Like, hey guys, it is DEFCON 1 down here.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of I'm pretty good at listening to my gut. My gut for the vast majority has led me in the right direction my whole life. And so just went over to check him in there, and it was one of the hardest days of my life, to go through that, just to see someone you love, and this man who was such a figure of strength to me as a kid. My dad was such a man's man, and to see him so withered and so helpless was, really rocked my boat. And to go through that process with him, where my dad's name is Bob. He's no longer with us, but he is Bob. He's always Bob. So the person who was checking him in, Bob, how's your diet? Goes, oh, pretty good. and I was just like, sorry. I'm not sure if he's had water in a week. So, and there were just, times like that, but I can laugh about it now. Where, again, it's that comfort with lying to yourself. And over time, the lie can just become a truth to you. And I used to do this.
It is so true.
And you can believe it with all your heart.
Yeah.
And
It's
it is wrong. It's self-destructive. But at a certain point, you can start to believe the lie, and that's very, very dangerous. And so hearing those answers, it was such a callback to my childhood, and I just started to be like, "This is all a lie." I mean, what was truth? Nothing was truth to me. Um, uh, and I'm not saying I still believe that at all, but at the time, um, you start to peel back layers, and the long journey of that road is that you learn eventually, like, your parents are just human beings. They are not superheroes. Um, they're not anything other than just human beings like you and me, going through the same stuff that anybody might go through. Um, and that's part of maturity, I guess. If you're ever going to really accept your parents, or accept um, anybody who has you felt wronged you in some way, something you're holding on to.
Mhm.
And it's just, if you can really accept that they're a human being too, that you can start to forgive and start to move on. Um, Acceptance, it's just very, very powerful. Um, and I know we're just jumping all over here, but uh, so checked him into that facility, and it started this process uh, from for my brothers and I, but I'll just speak for myself, where I got to speak with the doctors who had been in his life for a while, and
Mhm.
learned all kinds of information about things that he had been going through.
Mhm.
Um, and it was the first time that I had heard the words, like bipolar and um, schizophrenia and things like that. And so now I felt empowered.
With information,
Yes.
right?
Like, all right, now we know what we're talking about. My entire childhood, it was just that dad's in a bad mood.
Right. Right.
Um, Now it was like, and it allowed me to let go.
Mhm. Something that you
I
didn't
mean,
understand as a
it was
child
this,
for years.
it was like I had been carrying this pack for my whole life. And I was just able to take the pack off and put it down as easy as that, and forgive him for everything.
Right. All the why, what did I
All
do?
the Exactly.
Why, the
Oh my God.
questioning, the I didn't do anything wrong wasn't because of you. It was because of these diseases.
Right. Right. It was like getting mad at somebody for having cancer.
I went through that with my mom.
Yeah.
I was definitely mad at her for a long time.
And it really, I mean, it happened in a second. It just was like, all right, oh man, okay. So how do we deal with this beast now? And I knew, uh, I I had been in therapy since I was 18. I was really lucky when I was in college, um, to find a program and be open to it. Uh, I got I got introduced to meditation my freshman year of college at acting school, where it was just part of the curriculum. Miss Jean Sabatine,
Oh.
this thank you, thank you, thank you. We like, first week of class, we were like balancing our chakras and going through meditative, breath control, and boy, I mean, it was eye opening to me, and it's something I practice to this day. Um, and so I knew that there was, we were dealing with a man who was in his 70s, a lifetime of learned behaviors
Yeah.
that were going to be very hard to unlearn. And so this whole conversation, I'm saying all this. There's what am I trying to say here? It's just the end result is that my father ended up committing suicide. And it took me a long time to understand that that was not my fault. There was nothing I could have done. That it was not my job to have it not happen. Do I wish it didn't happen? Of course. But this has only, that experience with my father, my relationship with him, everything has only, I am who I am because of my dad, not in spite of him, not that grocery store that we were talking about,
Yeah, that grocery. Yeah.
where I get to go through it and pick the ingredients. I have gotten to pick the ingredients from my father.
Yes.
To make myself, the meal of life. And my dad had incredible food.
He had all the best ingredients.
There are some I've left on the shelf, and
Of course.
they've expired.
Of course.
But this wonderful lesson that he taught me about the joy of life and about chasing it, about trying to get the most out of everything, and that it is my job as a human being, as a man, as a brother, as a son, as a friend, as a coworker, to show up for people. Because, and I'm not saying I'm mad at my father, but I don't want anybody to have to come and rescue me ever. I don't want that to be that's a lesson in some way that my dad taught me, that because of that experience, I'm now stronger than I think I'll ever be. Like, I've already done the hardest thing I'll ever have to do. And that's empowering. Yes. Not that it makes me fearless, but I can check in with that. It's a little touchstone for me that I can go,
sure.
I saw that through, and I've come out on the other side. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay. I'm not only okay, I know I'm a good person. I know I'm a good friend. I know I'm a good coworker. I know I'm a good brother. I know I'm a good son.
Yes, you are.
And that, so I thank him for that lesson. Whether or not he knew it at the time, he was teaching me something so invaluable. I just
Isn't it funny how the
live
world,
I live in honor of him, and it's not just about him. I mean, I talk about this a lot because it's you know, because it is so important to me, and it deals you know, we're dealing with a lot of these emotions on the show. You know, I'm playing a character who tries to commit suicide, who tries to check out, and I've got a really close perspective of what that's like.
can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
Now, I hate to talk about the show in a sense of comparing it to reality because life is not a TV show. But you bring up a really interesting point because you have a perspective when you get to look at Gibbs and the choices that he's made that kind of lead us into where we are. Really, what you just said, Gibbs was willing to walk into enemy fire. He was willing to commit suicide. He's struggling to hold it together. Do you find a sense of sympathy for Gibbs? Are you able to empathize with Gibbs?
Oh, constantly.
Do you
Uh,
think that makes it easier to?
I
It's
with
it's it's got to be hard. I mean, I watch you work, Austin, and I'm blown away every day because my personal opinion about what we do for a living is really just to tell the truth, and we have to tell the truth from the best of our experiences as human beings. And you are so generously digging into yourself and reliving so much of some of your life that has been the most painful. That is generous. That is hard.
um,
You are very strong to be able to share this person who you are with us, the people that get to work with you, the world, the people that will see this, because it is nothing but honesty and truth that you exude every day.
hmm. um, Thank you. You're Kyle. You're a very special person, and I know it's only because of the work that you've done. I'm going to take I'm going to take 2 minutes to talk about you, and then I'll come back around to that. But I do have to. Um, I have to appreciate everything that you just said. It does not happen all the time, if ever. Certainly, it's incredibly rare in this industry. You have been so genuine, so supportive, um, so loving. You take care of me. You're protective of me, and that feels great, man. I feel like I have a brother on set. Um, it is. I mean, these last several months have been very hard. The hours are long, but mostly it's this, you know, that I dig into these veins uh, almost every day. And and so I just I don't know if I would have been able to do it without somebody so strong. and has such a, it has built their foundation. Um, yeah, you are helping shape this character as much as I am. You really are. You are leading by example. I take, I take so much, I take a lot of pride in being your coworker. I don't know how, I'm pretty sure how you feel this way, how you feel about this, but the characters of Gibbs and Franks, this incredible bond that they have. We're really, we want to do honor to that as much as possible. This
We do.
male friendship that obviously affected the both of them. We've seen Gibbs' side of it uh, in the original show. But anyway, I just want to say thank you. I want to say I love you. Thank you. Thank you for your words. Thank you for expressing them all the time. They mean the world to me. As far as feeling sympathy for my character, it's further than that. It's I have imagined. I have imagined the night that my father killed himself more times than you can count. And I think about the final moments where it was just too much. And the choice probably for him was easy at that point, that it was easier to check out, that he was done. And so I mean, we literally filmed it, we filmed the moment where Gibbs tries to do the same. And it was I mean, it's always a combination of things, but like, I'm not going to say that I like became my father in that moment, but I very much, I was in his headspace. I mean, he's there all the time in this show. He's very alive in this character. He has in ways that, I mean, he understands now. But there's in terms of like higher purpose or grand plan of things that I knew from the moment that I read this first script. I'm like, oh, this role is for me. I love film and television. I love storytelling. I love theater. It's why I loved that. I'm not a very religious person. But the Reverend that I was talking about,
Yeah.
I loved him. Because of his ability to tell stories, they made me learn a lesson about life. That I was like, all right, this guy's going to be a little bluer today.
They provide an opportunity to escape a little bit, don't they? Stories.
Wait, you learn about yourself without having somebody saying, "Hey, Kyle, here's what you did wrong."
Right.
And I'm going to tell you the story of what you did wrong.
Right.
Instead, you get to hear a story about somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to fill in, you insert yourself into whatever character that you feel the closest to.
Sure. Yeah.
And if it's a well-told story, you get to learn about how how to how to ease that journey.
Or use that tool, use that
Yeah,
in
absolutely. Pick
your
it,
life. Right? Yeah.
right. And it's why when somebody talks about their favorite movie or book or TV show, it's so interesting to hear the different answers,
Hmm.
who they connect with, and why.
Right.
And
Right.
if you dug any deeper, you'd see very quickly that it's this reflection of themselves. Um,
Very true. It's very true.
and so I have the I'm living this life where I get to my job is to return the favor, hopefully, um, to people, in this grand opportunity to return the favor of helping others work through their problems. It's just I can't believe I get to do what I do. Um, uh, it feels so right and natural. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't, that it doesn't feel like I should be where I am, because it's the exact opposite. I know I'm exactly where I need to be. And it just is the most fulfilling thing. So when I'm going through those moments, sure, it's hard in the moment, but it is my profound responsibility. But what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, it is my gift to myself over and over and over again, that I
Sure.
get to go through. Uh, I get to touch on those emotions daily. I get to tap into it, and it allows me to become closer to not only to him, but to so many others. Um, there's just people that I've lost, and some traumas that I've had to experience, and I'm going through what is very much a therapeutic release.
Journey, man. You're going on a journey every day. Every day. How do you feel now? How do you feel right now after talking about this stuff? Yeah. Is that a good breath?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
tremendous gratitude. I have had such wonderful uh, people come into my life, and I've been available enough to accept them. And that's probably the thing that I feel um, the deepest sadness about for my father,
Yeah.
is that there were people around, who were available to help. Um, and he came from a time and a place. It's really great that you talked about where we come from. Um, I, I was I was lucky enough um, to accept talking to someone. I accepted the outstretched hand when it came my way. I got to college, and they're like, "Oh, we have services um, uh, for therapy if you're looking to talk to someone." Um, and I immediately went for it.
Good for you. That's courageous.
And I think it's because I felt so misunderstood that this was somebody who was, from film and television. What I knew about therapists was that um, uh, that they took your side, kind of, no matter what.
Right.
And I was like, all right, I want somebody to hear about all this shit that I've gone through.
Right.
at,
Yeah.
at that point, I felt so alone because I had finally left the nest, right? And so I was out. I was out in the world for the first time. I was no longer going to be under the expectations of the household, because that was its own experience. And I just was like, I'm going to become somebody else. I'm not, I'm going to, I'm going to find out who I am. I'm going to listen to my heart, um, and I'm going to leave a lot of shit behind. There's all kinds of stuff. I'm not going to adhere to anymore. That I was putting myself through school. Um, I was very independent at that point. Um, and I mean, independent to the furthest extent. It's just like I didn't trust anybody but myself.
Mhm.
My brothers, uh, while they had their own experiences, did not quite understand mine because they were older and got to leave. And
Right.
things got harder as they left. It was basically like less people to perform for.
Did you ever feel any resentment towards your brothers for leaving when they did?
Oh yeah.
You did.
Oh yeah.
What's the age difference between you guys?
Oldest brother is 6 years older,
Mhm.
and then my middle brother is 3 years older. And just in those 3 years, like uh, he was also he dealt with it in his own way.
Of course, we're human, right?
I
We're
took
human.
I'll just say I tried to fix it when I was still there, and he just coped with it in a different way. Yeah, and so and I did. Uh, I felt like they didn't believe me. I felt like that they weren't there for me. I was very angry with them, um, because they were my heroes too. I looked up to them so much, um, that it felt like uh, it felt like an abandonment. It felt like
Yeah.
but I've also expressed that to them. We've been able to work through that um, because of this. I mean, no doubt because of my self work.
Sure.
That my therapy. I mean, it's been 20 years now. I've been in therapy,
Yeah.
and you pick up some. I have a toolbox of
Yeah. Of
things that I can reach for when times get tough,
course.
uh, and they really work.
Yeah.
Do they work immediately? Is it a quick fix? Absolutely not. But I've learned over time, that that they do, and it's something that I encourage everyone to do. Um, but it's certainly, there's the stigma of guys going to talk to a therapist that you're that you're weak, that you're a pussy. I'm always like, hey, Tony Soprano went, so I guess it's okay for me.
That's a good example, right?
Biggest badass around. So
Yeah.
uh,
Therapy for me was just something that I need, like I needed to talk to somebody. And I never, I growing up in that in my generation of like you don't really admit to your friends that you're having issues. You don't really admit to your friends that you got these things that build up. Um, or maybe you do, but like you don't want to bring it up as often as they come up in your life.
mm,
I just needed somebody to vent to, and like I needed somebody to hear me. And I would say more often than not, being able to have the conversation and hear myself out loud gave me perspective on a lot of the realities that were happening in my life. Um, just almost like just like a sounding board would be,
mm,
just be to like repeat it. Saying something in your head is very different than having it come out of your mouth. You say something and it's real. And something's in your head, it's in your imagination. So we think, right? It's not, it hasn't
really,
taken.
do you not feel like maybe it's more real sometimes? That maybe the thing you say is not the real thing, but what's in your head, that's the real one.
I think it depends. It is much easier to lie in my head than it is to lie with my words, because my words impact those around me,
Mm,
and the lies in my head only can be believed by myself. Nobody else has to prove that they're right or wrong.
mm,
So I find it much easier to lie to myself than I find it to lie with my words. I don't like lying to people. Um, so often I find myself, telling myself it's okay, telling myself I'm fine, telling myself I just gotta keep going, keep grinding, it's fine. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm not sometimes. I'm underwater. I'm tired. I don't know what to do. I want to scream. But if I can just convince myself, keep driving forward, there's not enough time for me to admit it. And I
mm.
feel like when I'm able to talk to my therapist about it, or a friend, you know, we talked about this on Thursday. I'd done my first couple of interviews, and I turned to you and I went, dude, I needed this for me. I didn't realize how badly I needed to have a deeper conversation with people. I didn't recognize how beneficial it would have been. I just wanted to do this because I thought it was important. I didn't think it would have any immediate effect on me personally. And I guess I needed to talk to my friends. I guess I needed to hear that perhaps I wasn't alone in just having tough days and struggles and feeling the pressures of life. Um, and this has just turned into something that is it's been very healthy for um, the people, um, everybody else I've been able to talk to. Like it's funny how there's this overwhelming sense of like, wow, this has been nice. This has been nice. This is wow. Thanks. Thank you, Austin. Thank you for sharing, man. I mean, we didn't have an agenda. We talked about this briefly, and part of the reason why I love you so much. You were like, let's just talk like us. Let's just do this.
Well, I mean, I was at your house a couple weeks ago, and we essentially had this conversation. I mean,
We had something similar,
sitting on that couch right behind you,
Yeah.
weeping, two grown men
Yeah.
who
Right. I mean, we have a lot in common,
we have a lot
sure do.
yeah,
But,
we certainly hear each other's
and I think emotionally we're both sensitive people, and as you said, we've done work, and that not only benefits us, but it benefits the people around us. Um, you are a better person in my life because of the work that you've done, and I'm grateful for the work that you've done. I thank you for the work that you've done, because it just means you're a better friend to me. It means you're going to be a better partner to somebody. It means you're a better brother to your brothers. It means that you're a better son to your mother. Um, if is it, I talked to Fischler yesterday. He goes, it's that old metaphor. It's, make sure you put that respiratory mask on yourself when the plane's crashing. Take care of yourself first, so you can take care of the ones around you. And it's so simple, but it's so true. If I'm not present, and if I'm not healthy physically, mentally, I can't take care of the people around me. So
that's a good one. Yeah, I mean that's they all. I mean that's an old adage. You take care of yourself first, but I like that because it really puts it into just
simplifies it.
it's like, yeah, put your own mask on first. I really dig that.
Yeah. Man, we could, you and I could talk for hours, and
I was about it doesn't end. I mean,
this might turn
that's
into a conversation that I want to have more regularly. I think I might turn this into something more.
I heard about this thing. There's these three friends on the internet. They're Aussie guys, and it's called Wednesday Waffling or Wednesday Waffles. And they send each other a video every Wednesday.
Yeah.
They have to do it. And they've been doing it for like, I don't know, 3-4 years now. And they just give a video of like, hey, here's how my week is going. And, but you have to do it. You have to check in.
I like
that. And I loved it. Of course, Aussies in general, they always have it figured out. They really do. I mean, there's, makes me think of an Aussie buddy who has just been there many, many times for me. So maybe it's something I can bring to him. But it is, before we started this chat today, it's just like before my sessions with my psychiatrist that about an hour before, I know it's coming. And I know that there are things that I want to talk about, and I try to start to sort them out in my brain to, because I want to be a good student, right? I want to show him that I'm prepared for our session, and I got things to talk about, and here's the work that I've been doing, and that will bring up some sort of anxiety for me. Not crippling, but in some way that I get a little bit pent up about it. And then once it starts, it all goes away. And now, now that we're reaching, I'm not saying that this is ending, but, towards the end here, where I feel lighter.
Yeah.
And I feel motivated. I'll probably go outside after this and just kind of, drink it in for a second. Yeah, exactly. Feel feel the presence, feel, you know, think about
Breathing.
you in this.
Did you ever do breath practice?
Oh no, I started my freshman year of college. Yeah.
Dude, I discovered it. The Apple Watch, right? Got that silly little breathe app.
Oh, I don't even know about that.
So there's an app on the Apple Watch. It's a breathe app. You can have
Okay.
it set for like 2, 3, 5 minutes. It
Ah,
it vibrates as you breathe in. So you breathe in for 20, 30 seconds, and then it goes still as you breathe out. So it times out your breaths for you.
mm,
Started using it about 3 years ago. I didn't realize that I was holding my breath all the time.
mhm.
I was slowly cutting off oxygen to my brain on a regular basis,
Putting you into a fight or flight mentality.
constantly.
Yeah.
And I live on edge. So um, I won't say that, I don't know the details of your life growing up in that household, but I will say that it sounds very familiar to mine. And fight or flight, anxiety, and living in a constant state of kind of being on my toes is a way that I've lived my life for 95% of it. And it's only these past few years that I am learning to breathe,
Mm.
and learning to slow down a little bit. I still find it very, very difficult to stop. I find it very difficult to like
You and I are the same age. We're talking 40 years of
learn to
learned
behavior.
behavior,
Yeah,
of things that are truly in your cells.
yeah,
They are
yeah.
part of who you are. Trying to unlearn them will take time.
Yes, they will.
But it's why I love, like, when I found training, when I found physical training, um, and whether it be running or lifting weights, or, you know, that I learned that sticking with it produced results. And it's why I'm so,
Yeah.
it's not even addicted to it. It's a part of me because
Mm-hmm.
it shows me all the time that the work pays off.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
No, there's no doubt
you know,
about
there are little increments, but over time there are big advancements.
that.
And
My wife will turn to me after a week or so and be like, "When's the last time you were in the gym?" And I'll be like, "Oh, it's been like 5, 6 days." And she'll go, "I can tell. You're wrapped. You're wound so tightly right now."
mm,
And I'll go to the gym and I'll come home and lo and behold, she's right. I needed to get something out. I needed to have an outlet.
yeah,
It's true. It's health, routine, um,
and the scary thing
meditation,
when
therapy.
get it, like, I understand this, is that at a certain point it becomes, um, it seems like too big of a mountain to climb to even go out the door. And that's the scary part, is that I just don't, I'm pushing a lot, and I probably push myself too much. You know, I'm learning to, like, throttle back a little
Take a
bit
breath. Yeah.
because I'm so afraid of the other side that I push myself too much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've gotten myself into trouble in those regards with, like, physical injuries and fatigue, exhaustion,
Mm-hmm.
um, which again can't, you know, if I'm not able to put on my own uh, oxygen mask, what good am I to anybody else?
Exactly.
But anybody who will listen, you know, I'm always like, meditation, uh, stoicism to me is something that I preach because it's brought me a lot of clarity, controlling what I can control,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not it's not political, it's not religious, it's not anything. All it is just controlling what you can control. And so meditation, stoicism, try to eat right. You know, whole foods are wonderful, and getting yourself some activity, um, because and social time. I'm not saying I spend a lot of time alone, but loneliness is different than isolation.
Hmm.
I like my isolation because I'm someone who likes to read. I'm someone who you know, I have to spend a certain amount of time alone in order to do my work. Um, uh, so I spend a significant time by myself, but I also am, that makes me all the more engaged when I am with people.
Sure.
Yeah,
You've built up the reserve of that.
yeah,
Um,
ready.
yeah,
Yeah, when I'm with people, I'm ready.
you are very engaged. You're always very present when you speak to anyone.
But I know a part of what we are trying to do here, you know, is offer some solution, some advice of some kind. Uh, and so meditation, diet, and exercise to me.
Thank you.
Uh, and it sounds really easy, and
It's not.
it's easy, but you
It's
have to
routine.
follow.
It's building routine. It's
Yeah.
building it into your daily life. It's practicing it once, and the next time's going to be easier, and the next time's going to be easier after that, and all of a sudden you're addicted, or it's part of your lifestyle, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden you're breathing. All of a sudden, the bigger things don't feel so heavy. You have an outlet. So exercise, diet, meditation, and sharing with friends.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well,
having these
or
conversations.
and therapy. You know, I'm a huge advocate. Anybody, it is one of the greatest things. Even if you don't have anything wrong, if you know, just start doing it.
Yeah, I love therapy.
I
Are
people who aren't in it, I'm like,
you sure? Just give it a shot because it's awesome.
what? Why not?
Yeah. What do you got to lose?
Why aren't you in it?
I mean,
Somebody who is
it's
completely
expensive, but like,
unbiased, who does not know your friends and family,
yeah, yeah, a third party.
who you just get to go
Yeah.
unload on.
And there's social workers, there's programs, there's if you have any kind of medical insurance in the United States, um, there are doctors in your network that you can find. You call your insurance company, they will send you an email with a list of doctors that
See,
are
now
within your network
this
that
I
are more
do need to
accessible.
get more informed about. That I have selfishly taken a lot of time to work on me, um, and now I'm at a place where I feel uh, like I've got a really, not only a foundation, but I've built my house, you know, my little temple here,
Mhm.
and temple feels strong. Um, and so now, you know, I think that it is part of your responsibility, as I think that is very manly to me. You
Absolutely.
know, not not force anyone, but to show others who might be struggling, how they can find it. And I think that's on me. I was very lucky that I was going through a really rough patch in my life, and I had someone I was working with at the time uh, basically say, "You need to meet my friend who's a psychiatrist," and that person has turned out to me to be the perfect person for me.
Right.
It took some. Now, I was seeing other people before then, and they were wonderful, but not anywhere near as special and valuable as this person that I work with now. And so I realized that uh, that it can be difficult to find, to reach out, and it seems like it's a whole web of, you know, how am I supposed to pick from this list of doctors? Who's going to be good? And that is daunting. And I wish it was easier to say to find someone. And so I feel like that's the next step for me, is finding out really what it is like for someone, um, uh, you know, for other people who are actors, because I feel like you have to start in your neighborhood before you fix your town, and then fix your state and country and world, all those
Mhm.
things. So I just, you've ignited something in me in this. This has just been 2 weeks ago. Maybe you brought this to me, but I really, this is wonderful, Kyle. What you're doing is really wonderful, and I want to let you know that it's already affected me. Um, I hope this reaches other people. Even one is great, right? We take this time. If one person watches this conversation and says, I feel better about today. I feel more, that somebody hears me, that I connect to those guys. I mean, you play a very masculine character on this show.
Yes, I do.
I
I can't imagine how much therapy Mike Franks needs.
whole ton. But at the same time, there's like this, real bravado, probably something that a lot of guys out there are connecting with, being like, I like that guy. I want to be like that guy. And so the fact that you're not taking down the mask, or dropping the curtain or whatever, but revealing this side of yourself as well.
Thank
It,
you. And
it takes a lot of strength, and it's really cool to see, man. It's something, you're inspiring me, something I want to be a part of, and it's because of your choice to do this.
well, thank you very much, Austin. I love you. It took a lot of courage to share what you shared today. You are brave. You are my idea of masculine. You are strong. You are giving. You are making the hard decisions. You are working on yourself. You are building your house. And if that ain't masculine, I don't know what else is, because you've got a wonderful foundation and you're just getting better with age, man. So thank you so much for doing this with me. We're on NCIS Origins Mondays at 10 p.m. There's my guilty little plug. But dude, I can't wait to work with you and explore this friendship for many, many, many years. And we will grow old and healthier together. And you got to come over and see Lennox again. She misses Uncle Austin.
I'm gonna read Goofy on the Hillside to her.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. I want to say thank you so much.
No, thank you, brother. Love you.
I'll talk to you soon.
Can't wait.